Did you see that shit? MMA podcast. Hosted by mixed martial arts journalist Mike Strauss, aka Strauss21, and Chicago's number one underground comedian, Apollo Taj Mahal.
Thank you for listening. I'm Mike Strauss, aka Strauss21, and this is
Apollo Taj Mahal.
We are the guys from the Did You See That Shit Mixed Martial Arts podcast. We know you're going to like the interview, so be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all the social media platforms, as well as the Missing Time Productions YouTube channel. And don't forget to go to didyousee.shit.com for a complete rundown of all of our content. Right, Apollo?
Yeah.
I want to welcome Casey Halstead to the show for the very first time. He is the owner and operator of 10th Planet in Las Vegas, and I see that you own about a dozen other ones there too, huh?
Yeah, I'm up to, partial ownership of some, but we got about 9 total now.
Very cool, man. Now, how did you get into that? I mean, I assume you were probably just a student, or how did that work?
Well, yeah, I started, as a kid, lifelong martial artist, karate, wrestling growing up. And then I was part of a jiu-jitsu academy that was kind of old school, and we were bound by tradition, and innovation was frowned upon. And obviously, when I started, there was no YouTube, and a lot of things were hard to come by. Technique was very hard to come by. So we were exposed to Eddie Bravo's books back in the day, and we would find little times in training to just kind of, when the instructor would turn his back and we'd start working some rubber guard stuff, my partner and I, Ron Turner. And as time went on, I started realizing that innovation was key, and a lot of jiu-jitsu was being held back because of tradition, trying to honor the ones that came before us, and I think there's a balance. You need to honor jiu-jitsu, but you also need to innovate. So it was a natural progression for me. I ended up leaving that academy and kind of going out on my own and training a bunch of places, and that's where I ended up meeting up with some 10th Planet guys, and then I decided to go straight to the source and start training with Eddie. And to make a long story short, we opened up 10th Planet Costa Mesa with Eddie's blessing, and the rest is history from there.
It really is history, man. You've been doing so well for yourself, man. So many fighters are just, you are really truly grooming so many fighters. I saw that. Were you in New York last week with Lance Palmer?
Yes, I was. I've been working with Lance Palmer for a few months now. He's been doing his camps out here in Vegas, and I started working with Joe Benavidez, and Joe Benavidez and Lance Palmer were teammates at Alpha Mill, and now they're both doing their camps here in Vegas, and we just hit it off. And yeah, so I've been working with him. I'm happy because it's one of those relationships where, like, technically I'm the coach, but I feel like I get more out of the relationship than he does, because every time we get on the mats, I mean, the dude wrestled, he was a 4-time state champion in Ohio. He's an All-American at Ohio State, runner-up for a national title. I mean, this dude is a grappler since he was 9 years old. So I'm learning more from him. So it's equally beneficial, to say the least.
Yeah, Lance is a super good dude, man. He's been on the show several times. He's a just amazing competitor, and he looked phenomenal in his last outing at the PFL. And I got to say, man, maybe you had something to do with him sinking in that late choke, huh?
Well, I mean, I was telling him short time, if that means I had something to do with it. But yeah, he likes to get the one boot, the bottom hook, and then pull the hip in one direction and the head in one direction, a lot like a twister, kind of. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so he was actually looking for the real rear naked choke, trying to get it clean. And when he heard that we had short time, he was like, all right, I'm just going to crank this guy and see if I can get the tap. But taps come hard. When you're fighting tough guys that don't want to lose, sometimes it's hard to catch them. And his opponent was definitely being very conservative on the ground, and it took until almost the last 30 seconds of the fight to actually get the finish. But we're happy he did. He got his 5 points. He secured the number 2 spot, the number 2 seed, and moves on into the next round.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait because I don't think Lance has ever looked better, man. It's truly a great story, and so happy that he's just finally getting his due. I was looking at taking a look at your Facebook page here before we had this conversation, and I saw that one of the posts that you had about, it was a gentleman explaining why working a job you hate is basically wasting your life. And I watched that video, and I wholeheartedly agree with everything. And for people that don't know what we're talking about, for people that are working a job that they can't stand, just what words of advice would you give to them? Because you, by all accounts, are living your dream, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is kind of, I like to call myself a human development coach before jiu-jitsu coach. One of the pillars that I set up is first it's creating culture, then team, then teaching people how to live, and then teaching people how to do jiu-jitsu. That's kind of my approach to everything. And luckily for me, I was able to start to realize these things early in life. I actually retired from a full-time job when I was 40 years old. And so my wife is an attorney, and I was working for a major oil company. And together, and then plus we had the gyms. So I was building these gyms while we're working, and eventually those gyms became viable enough to support the family. We were living in Orange County, California, but at some point, it literally, I made a shift where it was like we were making this ridiculous amount of money, but the amount of time that I was spending away from the family and away from my students, it was just too much. So basically, like 3 years ago, we literally both quit our jobs and we moved to Vegas. And a lot of people feel like they're stuck in these positions in life where they're miserable and they're unhappy, and I like to challenge that, especially with my students. I think the first thing you can do is you can start to lean out your finances, and you can do that today. You can start right now. The easiest way to do it is to look at all of your subscriptions, get all your subscriptions, put them in a bucket, and cancel them all. Netflix, cable. And you're going to find that the more of those subscriptions that you cancel, you're going to end up with a lot more free time. And in that free time, so you're saving money, which is making you less of a slave to your job. Then you're creating free time, which will allow you to create and try to find a hustle. So now you're not underneath all these bills, right? So you're going to get rid of the subscriptions, and then you need to make a change. You need to start looking at, instead of looking at a pair of shoes, a pair of Jordans, oh man, that's $130. I look at it like, how much do I make per hour? Let's just say you make minimum wage, like $10 an hour. To buy a pair of Jordans, that's 13 hours that you need to spend of your time for those pair of shoes. And when you start rationalizing your purchases like that, then you start leaning out your overall expenditures. And once you find this room inside of your finances, and then you can create a hustle with the free time, then that hustle hopefully will grow to the point where it becomes viable enough for you to leave. That's what I did. I didn't know that consciously. I was just kind of soul searching, and it just kind of happened for me. I was really lucky. But man, once you take charge of your life and you realize that you only get one shot at it, and making moments and creating memories with your friends and family is the most important thing, way more than money. You gotta switch the importance from money to relationships and times. And if you can do that, I think the sky's the limit. I think if you love rock climbing and you really love it and you know a lot about it and you immerse yourself in it, there's a living there. You can make it. You just have to change your idea of what your life, the way we grew up, our life was supposed to be house, picket fence, 2 cars, retirement, pension, this and that. But we're finding out now with the internet and people being so connected that there's 1,000,001 ways to live a good life, and you should definitely not sell your time for money, for sure.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. Just touching on what you said there. I mean, for the rock climber, the person that loves it and wants to do it, someone's going to teach it, right? Might as well be you. I truly appreciate you doing this, man, because I agree with you on so many more levels besides just the mixed martial arts. I think that your life philosophy is 100% accurate, and I just truly appreciate you taking some time with me today, especially considering the obstacles that we had to work around. But we did, and I'd love to have you back on the show too in the future, buddy.
Anytime, just let me know. We'll try to coordinate and make it happen for sure.
Thank you so much, Casey Halstead. I appreciate it, sir.
I appreciate you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.